Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Franchise Empire newsletter that we stream every week for you guys. My name is Tarek Johnson. I'm the CEO and founder of Franchise Empire. I have here Mr. Mark Magerman, who leads our brokerage team. What's up, Mark?
Good afternoon, Tarek. How are you?
Doing fantastic. All right, guys. Well, today we are going to cover a few things with you guys, and I think it's going to be, I don't know, we're going to have fun, and hopefully we show you some stuff that you feel like is valuable. We're going to talk about a franchise for less than $100,000 in a very fast-growing needs-based industry. We're going to talk about a needs-based resale with $750,000 of existing revenue. We'll talk about someone going from crypto to cabinetry, building a business that works for family, and 5 low-cost franchises that actually make real money. I got to remember to start doing this more often, but real quick, let me show you this. All right. Isn't that a cool effect, Mark?
Very cool. Gives us a chance to cough or sneeze or something off screen. That's nice.
By the way, as we dive in, and we're going to show you guys the resale first. I apologize for being 5 minutes late in starting this. I hate being late, but somehow it's still an area of significant improvement for me. If you guys are wondering, if you wanted to hear an excuse, not that you do, Mark and I meet right before this, and we have our weekly one-on-one. Mark and I always have so much to talk about. And I always enjoy talking to Mark. So that's usually why we're running late, because we're having a lot of fun meeting and solving the world's problems. Right, Mark?
But that's not to say that we don't look forward to these newsletters either, Tarek. The implication is that we're having so much fun. Now we have to go do the newsletter. I think it just makes the Monday afternoons just a lot of fun for both of us that we get to accomplish all of these great things in the same day. That's my take.
Totally agree. Mark and I discovered in our meeting, we were having a conversation about something called unique ability, and one of Mark's unique ability is something you have superior skill in, you really enjoy doing, you have a passion, you can kind of do it all day. One for Mark is like training and presenting, and that's also one of mine too. So we both get to operate in the thing that we enjoy doing the most on this newsletter, which is pretty exciting. Okay, our featured resale this week. We've talked about this brand before because they have a few resales, given that the brand's been around, I think, 15 years or so. But Advanaclean. So Advanaclean, they are in the mold remediation industry, and they have multiple revenue streams. They're one of the leading brands in improving indoor air quality. Unlike some of their competitors in like the fire and water cleaning restoration space, Advanaclean actually focuses on non-emergency scheduled work. So that could promote a little bit of a better work-life balance, especially in the beginning. And their business model allows owners to balance their revenue streams for greater predictability while offering a wide range of services focusing on mold removal and remediation, crawl space moisture control to avoid mold growth, air duct cleaning, sanitizing services, etc. They also can take advantage of the emergency services like water and fire damage restoration and cleanup, reconstruction, and contents recovery and processing. I think that's where a lot of the big ticket items are going to be. This particular resale is in North Carolina in the southwest part of the state. Again, due to confidentiality for the sellers and the franchisors, we will start to list a little bit more of a broad area instead of the specific city. But this location has a asking price of $500,000. Their last year revenue was $750,000. If you want to learn more about their cash flow, you of course would need to sign an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, and get connected with the seller, which is something we can do. I'll talk about the competitive advantages in just a moment, but Mark, anything that's popping up for you real quick before I dive into that?
Yeah. So with Advanaclean, one of the reasons I like the brand is, and you said it up front, they do the restoration for catastrophic issues, fire, flooding, that kind of thing. But they don't make their bread and butter on that. They make their bread and butter. I like to tell candidates that by using AdvantaClean, you're doing services that may prevent the catastrophe from happening later on down the road. But the fact that you can add that second part of it, the emergency services, is just a secondary revenue stream. But in where they operate, they're a relatively unique brand because their competition is not as robust as it would be in just a complete restoration. So they're doing it right, and they have also a lot of new territory availability as well. So they have the best of both worlds because they've had, I think people who listen to this know my take on resales. You got to be very careful. But VantaClean is one of those brands that they have franchisees who bought out other franchisees. They have these large businesses. It's time to retire, and other franchisees have already bought more. So sometimes they slip through. So this is just a great company, and we have a lot of success working with them.
Yeah, great points. Guys, by the way, I dropped the link to this newsletter. So we send these out 8 a.m. on Sunday mornings. If you miss that email, I dropped the link to where you can see this whole shebang. But what you'll want to do is make sure you go to franchiseempire.com/newsletter so that in the future, I'm going to put it scrolling at the bottom. In the future, you can get the email in your inbox on Sunday mornings, and you don't have to wait for this. Okay, competitive advantages. So you get to benefit from over 30 years of experience in technology, tools, processes. They also have an approved school for the Institute of Inspection, Cleaning, and Restoration certification, supporting training for technicians, which is very helpful. Any entrepreneur knows, especially in a very technical business like this, the training of your team is paramount. It's key. It makes the difference between a business that can run smoothly versus a nightmare. Cool thing, they also have an approved flood house, and it's located in their state-of-the-art training facility. So this is an advantage for franchisee training. Imagine that. You get to do your training in a flood house where you get to replicate flooding something and knowing exactly what you need to do. Because imagine you're a franchisee, you've been trained in theory, and all of a sudden you go to your first job that's just like real emotions, real people, real humans, real belongings that are destroyed. How do you handle that? How do you deal with the adrenaline of the situation? Well, I would imagine they can replicate that potentially pretty well in that flood house, which is pretty cool. Funding is also available for large loss, national accounting, catastrophe event projects to ensure healthy cash flow for franchisees as they take on big jobs, which is, I think, a pretty significant advantage.
Can I add just a couple quick points on that, Tarek, if you don't mind?
Of course. Yeah.
They've figured it out, AdvantaClean. So what do I mean by that? They're not looking for franchise owners who are happy to get on their hands and knees and clean up messes. They're looking for empire builders and businessmen and women who want to scale businesses. So they're smart enough to understand that those people aren't going to be doing the day-to-day job. They're going to be running these big businesses. So the training component becomes that much more important because it's not an owner-operator model. So that's one thing they figured out to attract the franchisees that they're looking for, whether it's resale or new. And again, the funding is there because of a direct response to the franchisees who were saying, why in the world would we go out and bid these restoration jobs if we're not going to get paid for 8-10 months down the road? The brand heard it. They ended up with this funding component. So yes, there's a fee attached to it. Of course, everything has a fee attached to it, but you can get your money early because the franchisee said, this is what we need. So it's also a great example of a brand listening to their powerful franchisees and making decisions for the benefit of both.
Yeah, 100%. Really, really solid points there. By the way, if you guys get value out of these newsletters that we do and you appreciate the time and energy that it takes to put this together and you enjoy listening and you find it helpful, then like just press the little like button if you're watching on YouTube or LinkedIn or whatever it is. It helps the video get more and more exposure. And I would actually love to know, are you watching the replay? If you're watching the replay, let me know, comment replay below. And if you're watching live, drop us a comment right now and let us know what city and state you're tuning in from so we can give you a shout out. And last but not least, before we move on to the next component is drop us a question. If you have any questions, ask us anything, and we'll field the questions at the end. Very quickly, our take. Look, we've talked about Advantage Clean before and some resales. This is a need, not a want type of business, right? So we have plenty of want type of business and upgrade type of industries. This is not one of them. So if that's important to you, great. Empire building, right? This is something you come in to build an empire, right? Not to, like Mark said, not to be the technician, not to be the one doing the work, not to be a chuck in a truck. This is to build a team, build an empire with an established franchise system. And at some point, you'll probably get the opportunity to buy nearby territories. I believe there's actually a territory about an hour away that's also for sale from this one. So, you start to get bigger and you can kind of take over the world. It also is, this brand is owned by Home Franchise Concepts, which owns a variety of other franchise brands, one of them being Budget Blinds. So they do have a good reputation, and you have the backing and support of the resources that they have. So if you want to learn more about this resale and get connected to the seller, or if you just want to learn about what other resales may be available in your area, we have a list of over 100 throughout the US and Canada. You can go to franchiseempire.com/resales and input your information. There's not always going to be something available, and oftentimes people will decide, even after looking at a resale, that they actually like a new territory better. This actually happened with clients that I wind up working with for the first time in a few years, Keith and Beth. Mark, I don't know if you know this or remember me saying this, but they actually watched one of these newsletters. They inquired initially about a resale that we presented here in the newsletter. That was why they then set up the meeting with us. They were very adamant that that's what they were interested in, that particular resale in Sarasota. And then, of course, but they were like, hey, yeah, tell us what other options are out there. And then as they got further through the process, they realized that a new territory with a different franchise brand that wasn't a resale actually aligned with their needs more. One of the biggest reasons was that the resale was one territory and all of the other territories were sold, and they had the opportunity to get multiple territories with the new concept, and they really wanted to be able to have multiple territories to kind of build their empire. So interesting, right?
It's a great story. And again, I'll add just one other comment, being someone that's seen these happen before. But a lot of people believe resales is such this goose that laid the golden egg because it's a revenue stream that's existing. However, there have been also horror stories that come with, you become an owner of this resale. You got a team of 8 people. What you don't know is that all 8 people were related to the prior owner. They're all going to leave after the first week or so. Then you got this huge problem on your hands. So to your point, Tarek, a lot of people are like, you know what? I think it'd be simpler to buy my own territory and build it from scratch. I know what I'm getting, and kind of buyer beware. So there's a lot of real good reasons for both, but that's a great story about those candidates. And we've also can give you a list of others who started out looking for resales and own now 2, 3, 4 brand new territories, and they're doing real well. So it's whatever works for you.
100%. So whatever that aligns to your objectives, that is our process. Firm on the vision, flexible on the approach, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, new franchise owner. Let's celebrate this. This was yours, right?
Yes, it was.
Michael?
Yep.
Katy, Texas?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about Michael. You don't need to read this word for word.
No, so we get a lot of folks who are already entrepreneurs, already successful business owners looking for something else. In many cases, they didn't even think of franchising until they saw some of Tarek's content. Michael was one of those guys in Texas. Very, very successful business. He had a crypto business, a couple other different businesses that he had. I think he had vending machines with the other one. I don't think it was a franchise vending machine concept, if I recall right. But he saw the content. He came to us. Initially, he started asking about resales. And as it turned out, we presented some brands to him. And one of them was a cabinet refinishing brand. He loved it, loved everything about it, started the process, started the conversation. You know, the due diligence takes a while. Initially, his wife was not on board, which, as we've seen before, will derail every deal known to man. I always say to people, I'm not trying to be sexist in any way, shape, or form here, but if you're talking to a man and he has a wife and the wife isn't involved in the process, you're kidding yourself. She might be involved in the process. She might not be speaking to us, but the brand did an amazing job of understanding that, getting to know the wife in this case. They both agreed to go to Discovery Day. She fell in love with not only the brand, but the people. And last week they signed a 2-territory deal in Texas. And not for nothing, the wife, Christy, she's going to be the main point of contact day to day for the business. So she came full circle. So that's an example of, what we do is we work with brands. We're very careful of the brands we bring in our portfolio because we know they need to have the support. And I think they're going to do fantastic. I just asked us and make sure that I get an invite to the grand opening. I could always use a trip down to Katy, Texas in the fall. So a great story. And Michael was a fantastic guy to deal with. He was very clear from the beginning. He wasn't the kind of guy pie in the sky. He knew what he wanted. These don't happen all the time, but when you get something like this and then you finally get them to see their dream come true, it's very rewarding for us.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this is why we do it. Our mission is to help you guys own money-making franchises, and pretty cool. So congratulations, Michael. Super exciting. And I really just want to emphasize before we move on to the franchise of the week and talk about this one for less than $100,000, I just want to emphasize this point here about, Mark, of course, is a very humble and doesn't really toot his own horn, but just Mark's process of really working with Michael to establish a criteria, right? And what would work with his skill sets and his long-term vision, and just really help guide him through the process. That's really the magic in like us working together. Because there are people that can go out and attempt to do it by yourself, but I mean, you got someone like Mark who's, owned 13 franchise locations and had a massive exit. He's been there, done that, knows what it takes, knows the emotional roller coaster of making the decision, of needing to have your spouse on board, because we all know happy wife, happy life. All right. The whole time you were talking, Mark, I was just thinking happy wife, happy life.
Yeah. And again, in some cases, happy wife means not buying a franchise. And if that's the case, that's the case. But again, I like to find that out sooner rather than later, because at least like in this case, it wasn't that she was against the brand. She was just nervous and she didn't know what she didn't know. So collectively with Franchise Empire and the brand, we gave her what she needed to be comfortable. So I'm really happy for them. I have a feeling they're going to do really well.
Fantastic. Love it. Guys, we're going to move on to the franchise of the week. Just a friendly reminder that, if you see a brand on here that you think is interesting, reach out to us at Franchise Empire. This is our business model. We share this to you, these brands with you, so that we can work with you with these brands if you're interested, and make the introduction. That's part of how we make money. And I got a call from a CEO of a brand, CEO and founder of a brand the other day saying, hey, I just so happened to call, this new lead in our system. And I asked them how they learned about our brand. And they said they were watching Franchise Empire and this guy, and they learned about the brand and they reach out to us directly. And, we have a good relationship with that CEO. So they were fortunate to say, hey, we're going to tag that on as your referral. But it is part of our business model. So definitely, we'd love to work with you, even if you don't want to keep working with us. Just let us know that you want us to check the territory, and then make the introduction for you. Anyways, on to the franchise of the week: assisted living locators. Mark, I put this in for you. I try to look back and see what you guys have been working on, and and one that you feel comfortable talking about. So tell us a little bit about this brand.
I'm not going to read the sheet because anybody can read the sheet.
Yeah, no need.
So the thing that's cool about assisted living locators is, first of all, it's in the senior service care industry, which if you don't know, it's a booming industry. Why? People are living longer. People are staying alive longer. And because of that, they are going to need services. And in many cases, it's their adult children who are helping provide these services. And in many cases, it's great because these seniors want to stay in their own homes. But sometimes that's not available, or that's not practical. And the senior service industry really has kind of two buckets. One is in-care home, where you're actually going into people's homes and helping them with either medical or non-medical care. Assisted living locators puts a different spin on it, which makes it kind of unique. They're essentially a matchmaker. I almost consider it like a dating site where you're matching people. So what assisted living locators does, if you're a franchise owner, you're developing relationships with hospitals and recuperation centers and physical therapy places and nursing homes and the like. And then when a senior who can no longer be in their home, or they are not eligible in the hospital anymore, or they have to go find a place, it's just so daunting and nerve-wracking for the family that what assisted living locators does is they will take the family and introduce them to several predetermined, acceptable, really nice places for the seniors to go. So the name says it all, assisted living locators. They help families find the locations for their seniors. And it's a very rewarding, exciting business. And we recently had a candidate, as you know, Tarek, who signed up to do this business. He was a veteran. He's a wounded veteran. He's disabled. And he found this to be perfect for him out in California. Couldn't be happier for him. So if you like, do you want me to read the description as well or not?
No, but just tell us, let's dive a little bit into the history and some of the numbers.
Yeah. So founded in 2003, so very mature. And we know it's mature because lots of territories are gone. So it's not a lot of availability for a brand like this because they're the leaders in the industry. They began franchising it in 2006. It's grown to be the leading senior placement and referral service dedicated to helping families find appropriate care options for their aging loved ones. Over 150 units. Boy, that's a solid number when you get up to that level. The franchise fee is pretty standard for this industry, $49.9. They have you can get discounts on the second and third territory. Asterisk there. If you work with us, we always encourage you, if you can afford it, buy more than one territory out of the gate. It gives you room to grow your business. Royalties, which, as you know, is the money you pay to the franchisor in return for their day-to-day ongoing support. They figured out that they're going to ramp up with folks. So in your first 2 months, you don't know anything. Months 3 to 12, they're all fixed numbers in terms of percentage, because as you grow your business, that number should be smaller and smaller. And that's kind of what happens. They do have a brand fund, which, quick education, brand funds are only established when the brand has enough locations to benefit from a national brand awareness campaign. So you got to contribute to that. But the beautiful thing about this business, Tarek, is it's under $100,000 all in running your business day one. I can't think of really many, maybe one or two others that we would endorse as a low-cost entry franchise. This is one of them. Net worth requirements are $350,000. They want to make sure you have $75,000 liquid capital, which again, very low compared to some other options. And it's a 10-year term like most franchise brands are.
Boom. Very helpful information about that. I just wanted to clarify. This is it is 8% royalty or minimum of the monthly amount.
I neglected that, right? So obviously you would pay the lesser of the two amounts as a franchise owner.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I wanted to clarify it. It's so funny. It's so funny when we are presenting. If I don't know if people that are watching, if you're in a position where you either present or record or whatever, but you get to talking and there's things that you say where you don't realize that you missaid something. It happens to me all the time when I record, and with when our team's here, and Josh will go to me, you just said that wrong, and I would have no idea that I said the wrong thing, which is pretty
You know,
funny. So
it's
that's the
funny
good
you
thing
say
about doing
that
these
because
newsletters
when we
together.
do these, Tarek, you know, I say to myself, I'm not going to just read the slide because that's boring. Anybody can read the slide who's watching this. So you try to put your own spin on it, and inevitably you miss something. So maybe I should just read the damn slide. It's written for a reason.
No, I think it was. We have each other's back. That's all that matters, really. All right, guys. So in terms of the numbers, and crap, there was something that I wanted to say about this this brand. I'll say it in a minute. I think we have it covered. Yeah. In terms of this brand, all right. So I'm going to use my trusty little tool here that might take up more than on the screen than I would like. But at least I'll be able to use the marker. So we can see here in terms of, they list the subsets of franchisees, and you can see the amount of franchisees in each subset. Oh, this represents all. So you can see that the lowest franchisee did $17,000 in sales. They're obviously crushing it. If you like my sarcasm. The average 199,000. The highest doing 901,000 in sales. That's the average of the entire system. And then you can see, it's interesting how they list it in the subsets.
I've never really seen it listed that way. That's very unique the way they do that.
Yeah. And when Mark says unique, that's his way of saying it doesn't make sense. Because that's what I'm thinking.
I don't know why they would do it that way. It's kind of what I was saying. Yes. Thank you.
I speak Mark very well. I think at this point, Mark speaks Tarek very well. And basically because I'm looking at this, I'm like, what the hell? This is hard to understand and distinguish. But most importantly is that you can see what the average is and what the highest is. And then you can see the average and the highest in each subset, right? So I think something that's an interesting point here is, you may go, well, $199,000 is not a very high average. So what's your take on someone who would on this business, someone that might go, what, the average of the entire system is $200,000? What? What's your insights or take on that, Mark? I have something. I'm just curious if we're on the same.
Yeah, well, I think we are. I mean, my take would be it might not be a high number, but your investment was well under $100,000 to get in it. So if you're average, you're already twice as high as what your investment net level was. A, but B, and more importantly, I don't like working with anybody whose goal is to be average, right? So if you want to be average, then be average. But if you want to be better, be better. But it's still a very high ratio between your investment and what you're doing. And again, the other thing we didn't mention here was your customer as a franchise owner here, your senior and their family aren't paying you. You're getting compensated by the facility that you put them in. So it's a really risk-free for your candidates. I know I went off an offshoot there, but I wouldn't get, I would look at it and say, if I'm going to be average and I'm going to do 200 grand and I'm investing $100,000, that return on the investment is going to be there. It's the same as if I invested 400 and did 800. It's the same numbers.
Yeah, spot on. That was exactly kind of the point that I was fishing for, was the sales to investment ratio, which is an important point. Somewhere between 2 to 1 to 3 to 1, depending upon kind of what you're looking at, is what you want to see as the ratio. The other point here is that this business is not one where there's a lot of cost associated with running the business. So although, okay, average sales might be 200 grand, like you're pretty much, you're in a sales business. You're in a sales and matchmaking business. You're basically like a recruiter almost, and like a recruiting business. So I don't really think you're hiring much staff or having many expenses overall. So in terms of who this could be, who's the ideal franchise candidate for something like this? Well, I would say first and foremost, you need to be sales and marketing oriented. You've got to be able to generate business. and really enjoy connecting with people, because that is the business. That's the name of the game with this business. I'm not going to hit on all of these, but you also need to be able to work independently and manage your time and just enjoy networking and connecting with people. If you're super introverted and you're like a systems person that likes to be behind the scenes, to tinker and optimize with things, this is not the business for you.
Correct.
Right? If you're a connector and you just love, you could talk to people all day long, you love talking to people, this is your business. So that's why it's really important to know yourself, your style, your skill sets, etc. Mark, you want to kind of speed through maybe just whatever the highlights are of the benefits for the franchisee?
Sure. As in most service businesses, home-based businesses, meaning you have very low cost. Tara kind of mentioned that you don't need a facility or an office that you're spending money on. The long-term relationships, Tarek's dead on about the local networking, but the beauty is once you've established a relationship with a particular, call it rehab facility that is bringing people, has patients there, and then they're releasing them. Once you develop those relationships, you're going to benefit from the byproduct of that relationship. They're going to continue sending you candidates. So yes, you're constantly being out there, but you're going to benefit from those relationships. They give amazing training. I can speak to that because of the candidates that have gone through it. Again, tremendous marketing support. They do have that national brand fund that helps on a national level. And again, they've been added since 2006 with well over 150 franchises. So they've got the systems that are proven, and they're taking advantage of technology as it warrants it to run their business. And again, couldn't be happier for our candidate Kevin, who a couple of weeks ago signed on, and I'd be really curious to hear how well he does and follow his progress.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, guys, if you want to know, hey, I know that there's some limited territory availability with this concept, but if you want to know, hey, do they have my area available, then you can go to franchiseempire.com/check territory. We can check and see if the territory is still available. One of the benefits of also working with us is that, a lot of times territories are not available. And so now the question's like, damn it, I got all excited about this one brand, and they actually don't have my territory available. Instead of looking at something 45 minutes or an hour away, which does not make sense, ladies and gentlemen. And one of my rules of buying is to not buy something further than 30 minutes out from you, if you want to maintain a decent quality of life. Trust me, I've done it. 2,500 miles away, 250 miles away, second location. I wouldn't recommend it unless you've already got like a manager, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, franchiseempire.com/check territory. It's funny when we start to go on a rant, and I'm like, I forget what I was even.
Well, if I could finish the point that you may have been making or add to it is because it's a mature brand, we also might be able to find a brand that does exactly what Assisted Living Locators does that may not be as mature, but we still have, there's a lot of reasons why they're in our portfolio. So again, if you don't have it, if you're doing this on your own and you contacted Assisted Living Locators, they said, sorry, your territory is gone. What are your options? Find a different brand, a different category, or stop altogether. But we would be able to guide you to brands that look a lot like it, but may have some availability. So again, there's no real downside to working with Franchise Empire, because all we're really trying to do is help you at the end of the day.
100%. Ladies and gentlemen, last but not least is the most recent. It's not really a podcast episode anymore, although it is a podcast episode. Makes sense of that one. But we posted to YouTube. It's a full video, but we talk about 5 low-cost franchises that actually make real money. And this is an evolution or sequel of a very popular resource that we have called 5 Low-Cost Franchises That All Make $1 Million. And so made a video on this. You can watch it on YouTube if you click on this link, or just go to the Franchise Empire YouTube channel, which has been growing. We're super excited. We're at almost 1,300 subscribers. Feels like we just passed 1,000 just a little bit ago. So we've been growing there, and we're putting all of our franchise specific content is going to be on the franchise YouTube channel. So if you have not subscribed to the Franchise Empire YouTube channel, go do that. The main Tarek Johnson channel is going to start to have much different content that it often is not related to franchising. And so this is going to be your go-to place. So you're going to want to go to Franchise Empire, to this YouTube channel, and go subscribe here. But you can see the video is live right here. You probably can't see it. Actually just went live this morning. So that's it, and that's all. You can also listen to just the audio version on any podcast platform where you like to listen to podcasts. Looks like we had a couple of questions real quick before we rock and roll. One of them, you think I should buy this phone case vending machine or a franchise brand? What would you recommend? Given that I know nothing about you, your situation, your personality style, your specific goals, I can't recommend anything. And if someone does recommend you something without asking you questions first and learning more about you, then run, because they're not trying to help you. They're just trying to either sell you something or give you advice that they shouldn't be giving you advice on, because you can't give people advice without diagnosing them first. So that's the answer to that question. Mark, any other thoughts there? Is that what you would say as well, or what would you say?
No, I think you're committing a crime and a sin to the candidate by suggesting one or the other at this point. It could be neither.
Yeah. You want to take this one, Mark? What franchises should we focus on in 5 years? Give as indirect or direct of a response as you want.
I would say that, and this isn't really Tarek or I speaking, this is what our candidates are telling us. Home service brands seem to be on the rise. Technology is coming out every day with new and more efficient ways to run these businesses. And I think it's going to be well into the next decade that these home service brands are going to do well. Also, senior service brands are doing amazing. They say that by 2030, 30% of the country may be 65 or older. So service brands, whether they're home or seniors, where you can run them from home, relatively low cost, high margin, that's what you should be focusing on. If I was going to do another franchise, another multi-unit franchise opportunity, I would not be looking at brick and mortar food. I'd be looking in services.
Yeah, good point. Interesting. I didn't think you were going to answer the way that you did. Interesting point there. My comment will be less direct than Mark's, which is a rising tide lifts all boats. So where is the tide rising? I mean, he alluded to it in terms of senior care. The other thing also goes back to my previous comment, which is it's very hard to answer this sort of question without understanding you and your circumstances and financials and, all of that jazz. But I think there are certain industries that, that we're bullish on in general. So, someone just dropped a crazy comment. So weird. What the hell is wrong with people? All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you like this video, if you enjoyed it, got value out of it, then literally physically like the video on YouTube. It would be helpful. We'll see you guys next Monday, same time.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
All right, bye.